All right, so while you were away, I went in, stacked these three pieces here. These three sheets of the blue, stacked them all together, C-clamped them together. So this is an original T-nut hole right here. And just going down and right over here, we have a new hole that I used. And I do have a pointer when it comes to that. And that is, use a sharp bit. So I just bought these brand new paddle bits, 1/2-inch paddle bits. And it's super sharp, and I went through all three like super fast. So hits the hole, sharpen your axe before you cut down the tree principle, and it went through super fast. So now these are ready for paint. I'm going to paint all three of these blue ones and those two there, and then we'll let that dry and we'll start working on the next step. So what I'm working on now, while my friend paints for me, is I'm working on the kick plate for the MoonBoard. So here's my plan with that. So this is a side view, and the kick plate for the MoonBoard needs to be 14 inches 0.2 or something like that, 14 and 2/16. So I'm going to be really close on the metric to imperial breakdown. But so what I got going on here is I've got a 2x6 that I've laid down, and then what I've actually done is I've actually cut it off at an angle. So you can kind of see it's like just this little toe stubber thing there. I'm beginning to lay down 3 2x12s. So 2x12s are 11 1/4, I believe, in actual width. So I'm just laying them on their ends, 1, 2, and 3, and then screwing them into each other. And then what will happen is then the framing, the toe plate for the MoonBoard will be the last 1.5 inches to get me to 14 1/4, I believe, is what I'll be at. So that's the plan, and then we'll just use the screw-on moon footholds. My friend Jack, again, who's loaning me these holds, is going to be loaning me those footholds instead of the traditional bolt-on footholds, and then I'll be able to bolt or screw them exactly where they need to go. So far I've got that 2x6 that sticks out a little bit, and it's cut at an angle there. Then I have my first 2x12, and I'll get 2 more of those, stack them right there, and then that is our kickboard for the MoonBoard. Another pointer that I've learned over the years, learned it the hard way, is I would really recommend using the T25 star bits, and instead of Phillips head screws. They're just way more reliable, and you can just zip right through a lot faster. So instead of trying to really push hard with those to keep those Phillips heads bits in, so definitely recommend that. Kickboard's almost done.
Oh, you're just doing 3 of them all together?
Yeah.
That's fast.
Yeah. Then you don't have to frame anything. So as I mentioned before, this build is a little bit different in that I'm not like pre-planning every single cut. I am kind of figuring things out as I go, knowing that the walls will fit in my space, just figuring out, you know, exact angles and cuts. So in that process, here's what I came up with. So there's the kickboard that we had just finished, and then I was going to build and frame out the 40-degree wall with this toe plate and just screw in my 12-foot studs, but for accuracy and just for ease of getting this up, what I've decided to go back to is something that I've done in the past, which is I'm actually going to screw that toe plate down, and then I've got these brackets here that fit in 2x4, and I'll just hammer this out so that I can get it in and rest the base of each of my studs there, and then as I run them up here, I can tie them into my joist work, and then we're good to go, and we can have the most accurate 40 degrees that way than rather than trying to square up the climbing wall. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to do the 2 outside ones first to make sure that it's at 8 feet. Alright, so we got all of these in here at the appropriate distances. But we're gonna slide that in there and then tie it in up here at exactly 40 degrees. So we've taped the angle finder to the board, and then we're gonna go up to 40 degrees and screw it in. So close enough, 39.87 at this one, but there's a slight bow in some of these, and so when you put plywood on it, it's gonna straighten it out anyway, so good enough for who it's for. All right, here we go. We're gonna do the second one, and that will be the other outside one. Good. And now, just for my ease of mind, I'm gonna measure to make sure they're 8 feet apart. Exactly 8 feet. So now we're just gonna put in the remaining 3. We started doing the blocking here. So I'll finish blocking these sections here, and that's where the 4 feet of the first sheet of plywood is gonna finish, and the start of the second sheet of plywood. I'll do the same up here, and then what I'm going to do after that is I'm going to tie that blocking there over into that wall. So it'll create this floor level right here for me to use for storage and all kinds of fun stuff. So right now I'm just kind of in the stabilizing phase, as well as I'm just going to frame up as much as I can before I do the crazy part, which is cutting out that joist work. So I know you might be like, oh, that's not engineeringly allowed or whatever, but as you'll see, I'm gonna be reinforcing things in many different directions, and so it'll be more stable than it was. But anyways, that's what we're on blocking. So what I'm doing here is I'm just presetting my screws here, so I can put that piece of blocking in and just be ready to screw it right through. Alright, one more to go, right there. Alright, so that was the blocking and the tie back into this wall here. So now we'll be able to have a floor there for storage or a fort for the kids, anything like that. So now we'll start the next set of blocking for the next 4 feet, and we'll head across this way. So the MoonBoard is pretty much all blocked in. Alright, so what we've done is we put this beam across here. It goes all the way across to reinforce the joist work that eventually these 3 joists are going to come out. We're getting ready to now put in this 25-degree wall. We finally figured out what angle it's going to be. It's going to be 25 degrees. So we're mocking it up and getting ready to go. So we've got the framing up for what ended up being a 25-degree wall. And now we're just making sure everything's vertical. And we'll put some blocking in there. And that's 2 walls basically done. So basically at the end of day 2, this is where we're at. So we've got the MoonBoard framed up, and then we've got the 25-degree wall. It still needs blocking, but we'll do that. And then I'll tie that back into the sidewall. And as we talked about before, I wasn't sure what angle this was gonna end up being. So we just kind of had to figure things out as we go, in addition to how far over it had to be. So everything we kind of figured out as we went. So what we ended up doing is we ended up just building a toe plate here. And as we came up with the angles that we needed, we literally just screwed them into this joist this direction. Part to come is the stabilization between joists. So like if you're concerned that they'll be flexing of the joist this way as weight is on this wall, these joists will all be tied together across over here. They're already tied together on this side. So that will be really sturdy. So that is how we did that 25-degree wall. And then what happens is that it actually interjects in here. And so once I get the first sheets of plywood up, what I'll be doing is I'll be building triangles. So as long as you build triangles, you can have flat planes really anywhere. And so I'll just be building out triangles with framing, and then we will cut the plywood to match. My goal is to be able to use this ninja wall in one of those triangles, because this ninja wall has been on every single wall since I started building home walls. So that's basically the end of my second day of building. And when I say basically the end, what I'll probably end up doing tonight, late night, when it's quiet, is I'm going to be putting painter's tape in my grid line here, and also building some stencils for the ABCD 1, 2, 3, 4 that you'll use on the MoonBoard. So what I have here is I have just regular painter's tape, the 1 inch I think. I've got some of these little bookmark arrows, and then I printed these off. So these are just little label paper, and they're stickers of the letters A through K for the columns, and then numbers for the rows. Alright, so I got a few verticals, or I got the verticals and a few horizontals, and I'm just going to continue on for all 3 boards. So this is where one of the holes is going to be, at that intersection, and down and right from there is this hole here where I'm going to have the LEDs. And so now when this light is on, we'll know that that is to that hold. Now they all have their little arrows. And then next is time to decide where this is going to go in the order. So is this going to be on the bottom, middle, or top? So I think I'm just going to go with top for this one, just because that'll be the most stickers to try. We're going to do A through K across the top, and then 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13 for the numbers. Alright, so this is super time consuming, so I hope it pans out. I hope it works. As nice as these little book tabs are, because they're arrow shaped, they're not sticking very well, so I hope that they last. I'm not going to paint today, but I wanted you to at least be able to see what it's going to look like, the prep work. I do have the other 2 sheets of plywood that I do still have to set up, put the grid lines and everything on like that. So, and then hopefully when it's a little bit warmer, I will throw a coat of paint on.